somebody is going to have to organize this mess. Hey, I am Chuck the bureaucrat, and there's something about military transition that's been bugging me for a while. Your military transition is presented to you like it's this single, monolithic thing, a simple path that you walk down, but it's not. And even the insight from the Army G1 that says that retirement is a process and not an event, well, it fails to capture what's really happening. I would say that military transition is a kit that you assemble from a box full of individual parts. There's some parts that everybody is going to use, but then there's also some parts that only a couple of people will use. In general, each of these components benefit a specific part of your life story, like education benefits are part of your career planning, and your pension is part of your retirement planning, while wills are part of your estate planning. And for each of these components that you're going to assemble your personal transition out of, well, each of them has their own rules about who qualifies, they've got their own timelines, and they have specific offices that manage them. So the very first and most important thing to understand about your military transition is that you're going to be dealing with specific federal agencies, primarily the Department of Defense and the Department of Veteran Affairs. But you'll also see the Office of Personnel Management and the Small Business Administration crop up. Anytime that you are dealing with a benefit or a program, you have to deal with the one agency that manages that benefit. Plenty of people might talk about a benefit, but only the office that manages it can do anything about it. So you want to make sure that you're dealing with the right people and not just some talkative bystander. Plus, there is a collection of actions that you and your family are going to have to take that are important to your transition, but they're not managed by a federal program. Okay, next, let's just sort of broadly describe your life story. You have career planning, and that includes education, job search, employment, and business ownership. Then there's retirement planning, and that's about setting the conditions to have the quality of life that you want when you stop working. And then you have estate planning, which is really about providing for the people who are left behind once you pass away. And then, and this is how it's easy to get tripped up with transition assistance program, there's a bunch of stuff that you have to do simply to transition off of active duty. All right, with this matrix as a rubric, let's start to put specific pieces of your transition plan into the right places. Oh, and I gotta warn you, I did this Christmas Eve after drinking way too much coffee, so I'm sure that there's an error in there, and when you find it, put a note in the comments so we can all get better at this. And let's just work our way left to right, top to bottom. When it comes to transition specific stuff, this is going to be a lot of DoD. You got the Transition Assistance Program, which is supposed to help you navigate all of this. Then for retirees, you have the Mandatory Retirement Seminar. No matter how you transition, you're going to need your DD-214, and you're probably going to have some terminal leave that you either have to use or sell. And there's probably going to be at least 2 checklists that you have to fill out in order to clear. One for your unit and one for your post. You do get a final PCS, and this is one of those situations where a single decision on your part can have implications across multiple agencies. Probably going to have to do some form of house hunting to support your final move, and that might involve taking advantage of the VA's home loan program. Okay, so that just gets you out. Now, let's talk about some specific programs that can help your career planning. Of course, those programs are very diverse because, well, careers can be very diverse. There's the DoD Skill Bridge program. VA manages the Montgomery GI Bill, and I tend to think of the 9/11 GI Bill as estate planning because it can benefit your family, but you can also use it for yourself. Then the VA has a training program called Vet Tech. The Office of Personnel Management offers civilian government positions at USA Jobs. And then the Small Business Administration provides information to service members who want to start their own business through a program called Boots to Business. And the Small Business Administration has a fabulous mentorship program called SCORE. Frankly, when it comes to career planning, there are a bunch of things that you have to be doing for yourself. A huge one is if you're going to be going back to school, you've got to be tracking the application deadlines, and if there's any time-sensitive requirements like a standardized test that you have to take before some certain point. You're going to need to consider your professional wardrobe and do some professional networking, and then familiarize yourself with some of the non-governmental employment platforms. And then when it comes to retirement planning, there is a whole new raft of DoD programs. The most basic one is your pension, which gets paid by the Defense Finance and Accounting Service, DFAS, which is the same agency that's been paying you while you've been on active duty. You probably have a big chunk of money in your thrift savings plan, and you're going to have to determine what to do with that. You're going to need your retired ID, and that's going to set you up to enroll in TRICARE. And then there's the issue of concurrent retired and disability pay versus combat-related special compensation that you've got to work through. And that really starts to tie into the disability claim process with the Veterans Administration. And then the VA has its own healthcare portal. In the meantime, you're probably going to have to talk to a financial advisor. And here I'm using the logo of their regulatory agency, FINRA, because when you start dealing with brokers, it's a good idea to check to see if they have any bad paper. Finally, you got estate planning, taking care of your loved ones after you're gone. DoD manages the Survivor Benefit Program, and it's paid out of your pension through DFAS. And there's legal services like updating your will or power of attorney or living wills. The Veterans Administration offers Veterans Group Life Insurance, and I mentioned the post 9/11 GI Bill a little while ago. Plus, there's a number of death and burial benefits offered by the VA. Now, Survivor Benefit Program and VGLI are good programs, but they're expensive. So one of the things you'll end up talking to your financial advisor about is term life insurance and whole life insurance. Whew! That is a lot. I mean, there's two things about this grid to keep in mind. First of all, this crosswalk just lines up individual benefits with the organizations that provide them and the specific phases of your life that they benefit. It's not a timeline. In fact, each one of these programs have their no earlier than and milestones and no later thans. Those individual schedules and deadlines may have nothing to do with putting together a coherent timeline for your transition. In fact, I'm working on a video that starts to line these up in time, but there's a second point about this matrix. The second thing is that this list is probably not comprehensive. I probably missed something important, so if you see it, leave a comment. In the meantime, there's a couple of videos that you might want to watch because they deal with the more complicated nuances of some of these programs. This one lays out concurrent retirement and disability pay as well as the combat-related special compensation. And this one will walk you through the Survivor Benefit Program.